What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the North Coast Brewing Company, and they're headquartered in Fort Bragg, California, and this is their Pacific Magic IPA. So this is an IPA that comes in at 6.8% alcohol by volume, 58 IBUs, and at the time of review, this bottle is just under 4 months old. I'm going to give a huge thanks and shout out once again to a very good friend of mine and viewer of the channel, Billy, for this beer. So big thanks to him. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contains all the goodies he sent my way. And he sent me an entire box of beers from North Coast. It included 3 IPAs, 2 lagers, a Berliner Weiss, and an Old Ale. This is the second of the 3 IPAs that I am reviewing. Unfortunately, 2 of the IPAs were pretty much out of date, and that Berliner Weiss as well. The first one I reviewed was their Stellar IPA, which was just under 4 months as well, and you could tell that beer was not what it's supposed to be. Still decent. I think I gave it like a 3.5 or 3.55. It was okay, but didn't have a lot of flavor, and I could tell it's a bit aged. This one, a little bit fresher by a couple days at this point by I'm reviewing it, but it's still under 4 months old, so we will see. Billy bought all the beers at the brewery, so the fact that he got old IPAs is very disappointing from that standpoint, because I feel like if you go to a brewery and you're buying fresh beer and it's not fresh, that's a problem. That's a problem. Anyway, the Pacific Ocean is to us a magical place that has inspired this delicious IPA. Our hope is that while savoring Pacific Magic, you will be transported back to your favorite seaside memory. Well, I don't live in California. I'm not right next to the sea. So, no, it won't what does it say? It will transport me back. It will not. But what I'm hoping this is tasty. That's what I'm hoping for. They do mention on their website that this to me is like more of a new school West Coast IPA. They say the classic, characteristics you get with a West Coast IPA. However, with the the crispness you get from a pilsner. So that's kind of what a new school West Coast IPA is. Most of them use like just pilsner malt, and it's very crisp and clean, kind of almost like a lager, but has the hop character you get from a West Coast IPA with a little bit of like, I would say more of it like a hazy / New England kind of hop character as well. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know exactly what to label this one, but they just say IPA, so that's what we're going to do. Pouring into the Firestone Walker glass, and this looks definitely like a lighter West Coast IPA. So if you call this a new school West Coast IPA, I'd agree with you. It has the clarity, it has the look, it's lighter for sure. So I just hope it's tasty. That's hey, when you drink a beer, that's what you're looking for. Tasty beverage, tasty libation. Also, I'm going to review this, and then a little bit later, I'm going to review their Foggy Day Hazy IPA. You'll see them about a week, maybe week and a half apart, but I'm going to review them on the same day because they're both sub 7%, and I feel like drinking a couple beers today. So the clarity, pretty good. You probably won't see it as good as I can, but you can see, the light goes through it. You can see how this looks, and on camera it kind of looks like what I'm looking at, but you can just see like the clarity. You can see my hand through it, so it has a good clarity, but it has like a orange kind of golden color, finger of an off-white, soap sudsy looking head. It plays the role, I think, of what you would expect a beer like this to look like, in my opinion, and I'm okay with that. Good clarity, the whole nine. Let's get a nose. It smells like that Stellar IPA, orange marmalade on white bread. Maybe a little bit more of like a crackery kind of malt character than breadiness, because they're saying it's more like crisp like a pilsner, so they're probably using pilsner malt. A little bit of like the rind of like a melon. Maybe a touch of a berry. I don't know the hops in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like Mosaic or something like that. Maybe Columbus. Listen, almost 4 months old. I'm not a stickler for dates when it comes to reviewing beers, but if I try something for the first time, I prefer them to be relatively fresh, so I can kind of get an understanding what the brewery's going for. The fact that this is under 4 months old, not to the fault of Billy, bought them right straight from the brewery, and they have the dates on over here, and it's hard to decipher, but then when you see, like, nowadays they put it like at the end. So this one was bottled on March 12th of 25. So, I'm drinking this one in early July of 2025. So you're talking just under 4 months old, and I don't know if they're refrigerated at the brewery or whatnot. It traveled. But yeah, it smells okay. It kind of smells like that Stellar IPA, although maybe a little bit more light and like refreshing in the nose. But anyway, let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again, Billy. I'll go back for another sip. I guess these two beers are a good exercise or a good example of why not all beer is created equal, and you never know what you're going to get. The reason why people tell you to drink IPAs fresh is because the hops fade, it becomes more malty, the hops change, and this being almost 4 months old, what's happening here is I am, just like that Cellar IPA, I'm getting just a generic dry, bitter sensation on the back of the palate with no real hop character as far as like flavors go. It's just dry and it's bitter. It's like firmly bitter, bone dry, but there's no hop flavor to accompany that on the back of the palate. No real hop flavor on the palate other than orange marmalade for the most part. So we're gonna give it a proper review, but this is very akin to the Stellar IPA, although a little bit lighter and more refreshing, certainly from the malt character. Anyway, let's go back for another sip. Buying this is straight up medium, 6.8%. I'm cool with it. The mouthfeel is beautiful. It's crisp. It's clean. It's almost like lager-esque or like a cold IPA. You know, the cold IPAs, they're almost lager-esque as well. Somewhat refreshing, although a little bit too bitter and dry to be super refreshing. Body and mouthfeel are actually really good. The taste is where this one is just a letdown, just like the aroma. There's an orange marmalade character, omnipresent front to back. So picture sweet orange with a little bit of pithiness to it. There's even a little bit of like a ruby red grapefruit. And that's all I really get front to back as far as like the hops are concerned or like specific fruit characters. There is a big drying bitter sensation on the back. It's sweet in the forefront, but not overly sweet. And then it's really dry and bitter. So this is not balanced. It leans very dry and bitter. 6.8%, you can't tell. It's a very easygoing IPA. And if you're somebody who liked old school, like 1,000 IBUs from Mikkeller or Mikkeller. If you like Stone Ruination from the bitterness and just the fact that it grips your palate, like this aged has that bitterness and dryness. It just doesn't have the flavors those beers had. I'm not gonna sit here and waste your time as far as like trying to pick stuff up. Yeah, it has a nice orange marmalade, maybe a little bit of, like I said, ruby red grapefruit, maybe even a touch of lemon, but that's really it. 6.8%, I can't tell, so that's good. This one's slightly better than that Cellar IPA, but it's just okay. And I think a lot of it has to do with the age of this, unfortunately. It is what it is. Again, not to the fault of Billy. Billy sent him off, and he was like, man, I forgot to check the dates. So maybe if he checks the dates, he doesn't send them to me, but he shouldn't have to check the dates for something like this from the brewery. And I'm not calling out North Coast as much as just saying, I think if you go, and this has happened to me numerous times before. I've went to breweries, I've bought a beer, not even thinking twice. Like I bought like a 4-pack or a 6-pack, and not thinking twice about the date, being like, I'm at the source, the beer's gonna be fresh. And then I get home and the beer's like 2.5, 3 months old, and I'm just like, how is like your flagship beer that old at the brewery? Like, that's ridiculous that you're selling it. And then they'll have, at least it doesn't say it here, but they'll have the audacity to put on the label, keep cold and drink fresh, and then they sell you old beer, and it's like, dude, and maybe some of those places don't even keep it cold. Most places do nowadays, but like it's bullshit. So regardless, this was unfortunate. I will say that Foggy Day IPA is fresh, so I'm more pumped up for that one, but it's a hazy and it's a West Coast brewery, old school West Coast brewery, so we'll see how that is. But anyway, I'm going to give Pacific Magic IPA from North Coast. I'll give it a high 3.5. I'll go 3.6, slightly better than the 3.55 or 3.5 I gave to Stellar IPA. Not bad in the least. I can't sit here and say this is a bad beer, but it's also probably not a beer that I want to drink in its current state. If I ever had a chance to try it uber fresh, sure, I would give it a go. I'd re-review it, but as is, this just doesn't do it for me, and it's okay. It happens. Price point availability, $13.49 a 6-pack on their website, and I want to say bottles of this was like $2.39, $2.49, something like that. That's fine. If this is fresh, I'd imagine it's pretty solid. And that price point's not bad. You're talking under $2.50 a can or a bottle, so that's cool. And availability is North Coast. I have no idea. I will say this: here in Buffalo, New York, we do see like a rotating variety of their beers, say 4 to 6 different beers, but I've never seen an IPA from them here locally. So the fact that I got to try the IPAs, albeit a couple of them being a bit old, I'm still happy about it. It's just I wish this was a true representation of what the beer is supposed to be. But if it's on anybody, it's on North Coast more than it is Billy, because Billy bought them from the brewery. It should be fresh. Even if Billy bought them from the brewery and they're like 6 weeks or 2 months old, that's better. But he sent this beer mail to me after visiting North Coast, and probably let's say 2 weeks for transit and him packing and everything. that still means this beer was like over 3 months old when he grabbed it. So that's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going to shut this one down. Like I said, later on in the day, I'm going to review that Foggy Day IPA. I'm going to post them about a week and a half apart. I hope it's better than this one. And it's fresh, so it has to be. So once again, huge thanks to Billy. It's cool to try all these beers, albeit, they're old. It is what it is. But I always say I'm not a stickler for dates, but this is what can happen if you're sending older IPAs or you drink older IPAs. Sometimes I've picked up beers and they're like 3-4 months old and I review them like maybe I shouldn't have done that. No, you should. Because if they're on the shelf somewhere or whatever, somebody needs to be called out for it. So at the end of the day, thanks to Billy. Thanks to everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. If you've had this beer specifically fresh, let me know what you thought about it. Appreciate it. To the next one. Cheers. I said 6.8%, right? Can't really tell. And again, the balance is kind of off balance to dry and bitter, but I do appreciate that more than being overly sweet. So there are some pros to this beer, just not enough to really make me go crazy about it. To the next one. Cheers.